What if there was a really simple way to tap into your own creative juju, your own creative potential, your own creativity? And I don't just mean to create art, paintings, music, to create your life, like to create the really tangible stuff, like what your day looks like, how your relationship is, the really tangible stuff in life, as well as the big wild things like creating a new company, creating new art, creating something that the world has never seen. What if it wasn't as complicated as we thought? We just weren't necessarily taught it. These kind of parts of our being just weren't necessarily activated. But what if it was so much easier than we thought? That's the conversation I want to have today, is let's see how much of your creative potency we can activate in this conversation. Yeah. To me, this conversation is a creative dance. It's a creative act. And my whole aim in it is to tap into universal mind, tap into inspiration, tap into that something more that we can all plug into, to open up our own like capacity to bring that through, we can call it a lot of different things, to bring an idea through, we could call it grace, we could call it love, we could call it life, to bring like this spark of life. Let's just call it a spark of life, because that's an easy way of talking about it. To bring a spark of life into physical reality, right? Because every idea, book, music, painting, art, conversation, words right now, it all kind of starts as this spark of life. Every day we wake up, we get out of bed, and it's okay. How do I create my day? How do I create my day? How can I create my day from a more creative way? How can I create my day in a more creative way, a more potent way, a more aligned way, a more awake? I love this word around creative potency, is awake, alive and awake. And I want to dive into those two words as really powerful tools to hold in ourselves when we start to step further and further and further into our creative potentials, further and further into becoming this wild channel for seemingly unbelievable, miraculous creations that can really and truly come in any form. So this is something I want to talk about first as I kind of lay the groundwork here and set us up for this. The creative act is inclusive to everything. And I really want us to take a moment. I want to invite you to take a moment. If this conversation is about activating things, right? I don't want this to just be some mind food that goes in one ear and out the other. I really would love for it to touch you deeply, to something that you can embody, something you can embrace, something that creates change. Like legit actually creates some change, some transformation, some kind of alchemy to take place in your being. Yeah, we'll talk about alchemy too a little bit further down the line, because that ties in so powerfully with creative potency. Okay, so if we're stepping into this this alchemy together, let this touch us in some deep way where it transforms something, awakens something in ourselves, I just would love to invite you to take a moment to open the front of your body. I know, right? I like everything about me is embodied. It is very much about embodiment. It's very experiential. It's very much going beyond the mind, going into deeper places, deeper wisdom centers, accessing deeper wisdoms in the body. And so just this moment of, okay, can you soften the front of your body just soften. And it's in a way of receiving. It's like and by the way, this is a powerful act of creation. Right here, you're gonna watch. This is gonna weave in, and there's gonna be layers and layers and layers and layers and layers. And this might be a conversation you'll want to watch multiple times, because you'll miss different things because things are coming in and weaving kind of wildly. But softening the front of the body, it's setting ourselves up to be a receiver, and that's part of the creative potential. That's part of our creative potential. That's a step in creating, is being open to receiving, So just as, how do we become open to receiving? There's many different ways, but a couple of the most important things to become an open receptor, like an antenna. It's like strengthening our antenna, strengthening our capacity to receive insights, to receive inspirations, to receive something from divine mind, something from higher source, higher wisdom. I like to call it the infinite all of everything, right? The creator, like that which creates life, that which creates everything. And this is so wild. We as human beings have this capacity to so fully plug into that, and to so fully dance with that, like be empowered by that, versus fighting against it, right? Versus fighting against it or not being aware of it, right? Not being conscious to it, not being aware of it, being numb to this whole amazing orchestration of creation, of life that's happening all around us. But we have the blinders on and we just can't see. So this is part of where we all have this capacity. And so I kind of want to nip that in the butt too. If you're thinking, well, I wasn't born creative, fuck off. We are all so crazy creative. We all have this. Right? It's just simply switching it on. And so this conversation, I want to switch it on, right? I want to give you this opportunity to switch it on to the greatest degree that you can in this moment. Okay, so let's go back to this practice and allowing the whole front of your body to relax and to soften, right? It's like soft underbelly. You just kind of imagine soft underbelly. And so even your face is included. So face softens, throat softens, front of the chest softens, front of the belly softens, pelvic region, the front, all of that just softens, right? You can use your breath to soften. You can visualize the whole front of the body kind of melting like butter, or just relaxing. You can move in a different way to just kind of allow things to soften. And then see if you can open up to like drawing something in, right? So if I've softened, I've relaxed, I've softened, now can I breathe? The inhale is really powerful for this. So it's like I can use my inhale. See how soft my eyes are? My throat is soft. My jaw would be much softer if I wasn't having to talk as well. But my heart is soft. My belly is very soft. Even like for me, I have womb space, obviously. So like this whole area is really soft. It's really soft. And once that softens, there's also this capacity to call in, to draw in, to receive, to attract in, right? I want to talk about this in a minute. Like, I want to go deeper into, law of attraction is one level. And they kind of started to touch into it, but there's so much more to this. How do we receive? How do we draw in? How do we attract something in? How do we call something in? And it requires this softening, this receiving. It requires, which many of us have built up walls of resistance, walls of protection, and we don't know it. We have all of this armoring around receiving anything. We think we're only keeping out the bad. We think we're only keeping out what is other. I don't want to take on someone else's stuff. I don't want to take on the toxic stuff in the world. I don't want to, I don't want to feel too much. I don't want to receive too. We're also blocking out the good stuff. Feel into that for yourself. Some of these things that we're going to explore in this conversation will really hit you. They will really ping you. So pay attention. Some of them won't. Some of them, it won't necessarily be your pattern. But wait, watch the whole thing, because when you find one that is your pattern, you kind of feel like you got called out and you're like, oh, that's a place for me to dive into. Like, oh my God, that was the one thing that I really needed to hear, and that just shifted the whole of my life. Again, letting this conversation be extraordinarily alchemical. I don't want to just have words. I don't want it to just go in one ear and out the other. I want it to literally change the cells in your body, to literally change the nervous system structures of your body, right? To take things to a higher level for you, to take you further into your creative potency, to take you further into your unique genius and your potentials in this world. Okay, so let's keep going here. So there's this softening, and then there's this receiving. Can I receive inspiration? Can I receive higher wisdom? Can I bring something in? Can I be open enough to receive wisdom? To receive, right? To receive. So that's huge. You could spend an entire lifetime developing that skill. For some, you'll work in that in ways of like Tonglen. That's a really powerful practice. And I won't go into it here. For some, it will be working in feminine practices, divine feminine practices, goddess practices, feminine practices. There's many other ways, and I won't go into all of them here. If you want more on this, maybe leave a comment. It's so helpful to me. I always read the comments first couple of days after a video goes out. After that, my team reads everything. And so we're always taking everything in. So if you ever at any point feel to leave us a comment, know that it's really valuable to us and helps to shape. It's a co-creative process, right? We are all in this together, and it's a co-creative process. And so if there's something you want to hear more on, I really would love to have a whole conversation, Sabrina, on this receptive. How can I develop a greater and greater capacity to hear, right? To hear. I sometimes talk about this in ways we can get all spiritual about it. And that can help for sure. We don't have to, but we can. Is to turn on your shamanic hearing. So it's I can hear not just the scene. I'm using not just my 5 senses, but I'm using my 6th sense, my 7th sense, my 8th sense, right? I'm hearing the unseen. I'm not just seeing what's in the tangible, physical 3D world. I'm also I'm turning my shamanic visioning on, and I can see in greater ways. I can hear. I'm taking things in, and I have become an antenna. My antenna is switched on to a degree, or I'm able to receive far more information than maybe what I learned in school. Right? I've learned the language. I've learned how to hear the language of the unseen. I've learned how to listen to divine mind, not just words coming through another human being, right? I've learned how to listen. Let me feel. Quick thing about, we develop, the more we work with this, the more that we're able to develop this discerning, so that we're taking in all kinds of information, right? I'm taking in information from social media. So I don't want us to think that this is all spiritual woo-woo, la la la, we only get insights during meditation. It comes from all over the place. From the most mundane things, like having a conversation with the mailman. But we have this relationship right? With this receiving capacity that it's like I'm taking in a conversation, I'm taking in social media, I'm listening to some, I don't know, like I was listening to a random training on like business sort of things yesterday. And everything I knew, but I'm not listening to learn new skills. I'm listening for what pings me, right? I listen for the what pings. And so we start to learn like that creativity, inspiration, higher wisdom, higher mind talks to us in different ways, right? It's like a discernment filter, you know, like I'll be listening to the news and it's like, wah, 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 wah. And then it's like, ding, 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 ding. Oh, okay, there's something here. What is it that's here? Yeah? Okay. I know I went off on a little bit of a tangent there, but what I really want to share is that when we start to develop these capacities and when we work more and more, it becomes no effort. It becomes effortless. So there's efforting at the start because we have to train the system. We have to train our shamanic ears to hear. We have to train ourselves to speak the language of inspiration, to speak the language of the creator, right? But once we go through that training, we train so that, and we put effort in so that it is effortless. I always use these terms. I practice so that I don't have to practice, so that it just becomes way of life. That's part of this creative potency. That's part of this living from a different way. It's you literally become it. And there is no having to think about it. There is no having to switch it on. But at the start, we practice it to switch it on, right? Or we focus on it, or we learn new tools or new techniques or new things, or we listen to people. We have these conversations where it's very much of a transmission, right? It's very alchemical. It's not just, oh, I got a lot of tips and tools and practices and oh, that's cool. It's like, actually something switched on. Something switched on, something lit up in me. Something from somewhere deep inside, there is a knowing, like, wow, I don't know how I know what she's talking about, but I know. I don't know how I know that, but I know. It doesn't make sense to the logical, rational mind, but there's something here and I can feel it. There's something here and I can feel it. Okay, let's continue on our little journey. I want to go back to this, what really helps to take us to the next level. And I talked about this softening, this really becoming receptive, really developing that capacity. So we'll kind of hold that as one of the key elements to this. Another key element, and I'm going to break this down and make this really simple for us to understand. It's being present to the moment. I talked about this alive and awake, right? I use those words at the start, alive and awake, and I'm going to start to weave these in here a little bit. This is the being awake. This is the being awake. We become more powerful creators. We tap into universal mind more when we are awake. So imagine this. This is where I want to really make it simple, very tangible, very easy to grasp. You go through your day typically with a routine, and you can kind of do it without having to think. You could drive your car from home to the office or home to the shop without having to think, right? And it's almost like we go on autopilot. We live a good portion of our lives on autopilot. Where I'm kind of, in a way, this is going to sound a little bit harsh, sleepwalking my way through life. Let that really sink in. So another one of those moments to allow it to touch us in really deep ways. Allow part of transformation and change, right? And this whole process we're talking about is transformation. It's inner transformation. It's change. And part of transformation and change is being able to be radically honest with ourselves so that we can see, right? So that we can start to see without the blinders on. And so this moment of, and part of change is when being radically honest, being very unconditionally loving, very non-judgmental. So it's like holding this space around ourselves of there's no judgment. I basically sleepwalk through my life, right? That no judgment will help you to get to the truth. Getting to the truth will help you to transform into something else, right? It's like, can you feel that? If you need to rewind that and listen to that piece again, right? Being non-judgmental, I'll repeat it here. Being non-judgmental, right? Like really being non-judgmental. I have no judgment of myself. I just want to see the truth. Just let me see. Let me see. Okay, so being non-judgmental allows me to see a deeper truth. Wow, I am pretty much sleepwalking through life. I live on autopilot. I'm not really bringing all of my presence to every moment. I'm not really fully there. I live up in my mind, thinking about what happened previously or what's going to happen. I'm not here. I live in my mind. I live in the past. I live in the future. I live in a state of numbed out, wanting to escape the present moment. Just being so honest. This is one of those potentially big aha moments of like, holy shit, this is what all of these spiritual traditions talk about, like the power of now. Eckhart Tolle, right? The power of now, right? That's one of these principles, one of these keys, one of these core elements to becoming a really powerful creator. And it's like creating the life you fucking crave. So creating the life you crave. Think about what is it that you really long for? Another moment of just reflection. What do you really long for? What is it that will light you up? Like really and truly, again, no judgment, you'll get to a deeper truth. If you have no judgment around this, you'll get to a deeper truth. What really lights you up? Not just what, that would feel good. Like, having a mansion on the beach would feel good. Probably not for like a day, a week, right? It's probably not material-ish things. Like let's go deeper. Let's go deeper into the ones that sting. This is the kind of creative potency we're talking about. The ones that sting, the ones that scare the crap out of us, right? The ones that light us up so much that we don't think it's ever going to be possible. The ones that make us come alive, even if that aliveness means nervous as hell, scared as hell, but excited. Nervous, excited, that's a good little key for when we're really opening up to deepest, truest longings. This can be a very, very powerful guidepost on, hold on a second, I want to get these words right. A very powerful guidepost on your soul callings, your true north, what it is that you really came here to create. Uncovering this can sometimes activate the creative potential. It can sometimes activate the creative potential because the creative potential, right, it requires, here we're going to get into this principle now. It requires the alignment of self. The creative potential, really stepping into your potential, your creative potential. It requires alignment of mind, soul, emotions, unconscious. So here's something that is so powerful. so powerful. The alchemists knew this, right? The great alchemists, those who have this capacity to really maneuver the physical world. Really, like you have the capacity to manipulate the physical world. You alchemists turning lead into gold. You have, and this is, yeah, it's in the myths. Yes, it's in the stories. Yes, these are like psycho-spiritual powers. Yes, it's out there. It's also so right here. You watch people, right? We all know people who, they just have a way of moving the world. We say things like, wow, you can move mountains. Wow, you really know how to manifest. Wow, you can really make things happen. Part of the reason that certain people can just make shit happen is they have found the alignment. They have found the alignment so that mind isn't wanting to do one thing, emotional body isn't wanting to do another thing, spiritual body isn't wanting to do another thing, and the unconscious is also getting in the way too, wanting to do something else. Can you feel how, let's just say there's X amount of life force that moves through you. X amount of life force. And that life force has capacity to draw things in, has capacity to, for you to do in the world. It's, X amount of life force. I've got X amount of energy per day before I need to sleep, right? So I can do X amount of things, right? X amount of thoughts consciously, X amount of doing things, there's just X amount. Now there's also a way, let me share this. This is part of the creative potency. This is the aliveness. Another one of these like big secrets, these big keys, is opening up to more aliveness. So you might have X amount right now, but that can be increased exponentially. And then you become more of a powerhouse. So just imagine you have more juice. It's like it got plugged into a wall. You have more aliveness, you have more fuel, you have more vitality, right? You have more juice, more aliveness. And so that's part of this alive and awake thing that we've been talking about, right? So there's just more. So that we'll just park that. That's a key. But coming back into here, so let's say in my current state, X amount of aliveness, right? X amount of aliveness that moves through me. But now here's the thing. My mind is over here stuck in a loop around a relationship I just lost. I'm making up complete examples here. So my mind is over here in a loop thinking about a relationship that ended. Maybe it ended like 6 months ago and you're still stuck thinking about it, right? This is just an exorbitant waste of life force energy, right? But this is what happens. This is what happens. And again, radical honesty with no judgment so that we can get to a deeper truth. We can just go, shoot. That is exactly what's going on for my mind a lot of the time. I'm wasting a lot of my life force energy on mental loops. I'm wasting a lot on mental loops. It's like an energetic leak, okay? So let's just say some of my life force is channeling over here and it's just on this loop of like, blah, 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 blah. Or we can go with some other deeper thought mental loops of you hear your mom's voice in your head still. Or you hear some, like calling it judgy judger pants. Like you have this own inner critic, right? And that's the mental loop that you hear all of the time. You're not good enough. You haven't done this well enough, right? It's just this constant mental energy that's just looping. So just, again, this is all, one of the parts of this is self-mastery. So if we're talking about really stepping into our creative potential, self-mastery. What is self-mastery? Self-mastery is knowing thyself, being so okay to see the truth of where we're at right now, knowing that we don't have to stay there. But in order to move from there, we have to be able to see that we're there. We have to be able to see that we're there and then make conscious choice and conscious decision to do things to move from that place, right? Okay, so non-judgment, we're just learning about ourselves here. This is that, right? Let this touch you. Let this be deeply transformative, right? All of this that I'm sharing, it's not to make us feel bad about ourselves. It's to give us some tools so that we can step into more of our potential. It's coming from this place of just like love, right? Like this place of love, like this place of just genuine love, like genuinely loving humanity and our potential, genuinely loving your potential, genuinely wanting to love your potential out of you, right? Genuinely. Like that is the greatest gift that we can give the world. It is legit the greatest gift that I could receive from all of everyone is us really stepping into our potentials. Imagine how different the world would be if we really started to step into our creative potentials. Let me tap into this. We also don't get to our creative potentials unless it's aligned with soul. Right? So I'm talking here mind. We've just started to dive into this a tiny little bit. Mind, right? So the loops, how much life force energy is going to the mind, right? Now, this can be incredibly powerful when it comes into alignment with what it is that we are deeply, truly longing to create. Right? This mind getting on board, this is where we source the power. This is where we now start to become really powerful beings because the mind gets in alignment with universal mind, with the creative all of everything, with my specific soul calling, with what is specifically, uniquely wanting to come through me or be created through me or the life that I came here to live. Destiny. We can call this destiny. We can call this follow your bliss. We can call this, your soul blueprint. We can call this your true north. All of that, right? Okay, so that's mind. Now, I'm not going to go through all of these. There's many, many different bodies that we can explore. And again, if I start on something and you're like, wow, I really want to hear more about that, leave me a comment below. Right? It's helpful. Again, it's so helpful in the co-creative act, which is what this is. Okay, so the other one that let me feel where we want to go next. Okay, so all of these different, we'll just call them bodies, right? There's a mental body, there's an emotional body, there's a spiritual body, there's many layers. So mental is really easy to tap into because we're so conscious of mental, or it's really easy to be conscious of our thoughts, or right, it's one that we can really identify with easily. Okay, so in order to step into creative potential, and in order to, let's go back, I just want to recap this for us, is I have X amount of life force moving through me per day. Now, imagine this X amount of life force is moving through me per day. Some of it's going over here in silly little loops. My emotional body, let's say that I have stuck emotions. I have old, unprocessed emotions in my body. You better believe that there is some life force over here dealing with these emotions, trying to keep them at bay. Maybe I haven't grieved fully the loss of a loved one. So I have to spend some of my life force energy to keep big emotions at bay, things that I haven't processed, emotional baggage that I'm carrying around. Let this touch you in whatever way it's touching you, right? It's like having so much compassion for self. And when we get to see something about self, it's a gift, right? So if that just hits you, just know I'm wrapping my arms around you and loving you, right? Love it. Don't tuck it away. Don't smash it away. Don't bury it really quickly. Go, oh, okay. I just got the next breadcrumb on my breadcrumb trail of where I could go to become a more powerful creator. Of where I could go. All of this could be pointing you in the direction of your, the next greatest step. Okay, so no pushing anything away, just allowing ourselves to really see from that non-judgmental place, because we'll see deeper truths. Okay, so now let's imagine life force energy. There's some going to the mind, there's some going over here to the emotional body, and it's doing all kinds of crap because we've just never really dealt with our emotions and we don't have a healthy emotional body yet, which is fine. You can work on that. That's easy. It's not a big deal, right? And then let's say over here, I've never really done soul work. I've never really tapped into true self. I'm still really living a life that other people told me would be good. I'm still really living the life that society says will make me happy, or that my parents told me would be good, or that I just somehow adopted some kind of an idea of my life should look like this. It should be married with kids, a white picket fence, 2 cars, and a dog, right? And I'm not happy. And I'm not happy. I've been there, right? I fucking know that place. So just, do you feel like the life that you've created is you? Do you feel like there's other ways of tapping into this? Like, I feel like I'm living a fake life. I feel like I'm living a surface level life. My life doesn't light me up. I feel like there's more. That's a big one. I feel like there's more to life. I feel like there's more to love. I feel like there's more to relationship. I feel like there's more to a career. I feel like there's more to my job. I feel like there's more to me, right? So soul work. That soul is always talking. We're just often not conscious of it. We're starting now to get into the really unconscious stuff, the stuff that takes more work to get to, the stuff that's in the deeper realms of the psyche, the stuff that's a little bit more unconscious, right? And we're going to go into one more territory around this, but that soul work really, like, who's your soul guide? What kind of soul work are you doing? When do you tap into your soul? This is your soul. This is your soul. It's like, I want to live a purpose-filled life. That's your soul, right? I want to live a life that feels really fulfilling. That's your soul, right? I want to live a life that, is in alignment, is on purpose, a life that just like lights me up. That's your soul. That's your soul. That's your soul. Only your soul will get you there. Only your soul will bring you to this ultimate fulfillment. It's also what will guide you in what to create. Really, it will also, if you let it, guide you in what to heal, how to heal it. It will guide you to the right teachers, the right programs, the right job, the right experiences, the right whatever, to divinely orchestrate everything so that you become a creative, a powerful creator. So that you step into your creative potency, so that you really live. That soul wants you to live true north. It wants nothing other than you to be in alignment, in true north, living your soul purpose, living your soul callings all of the time. And it is constantly working. Now, what if you worked with it? What if your emotional body worked with it? What if your mental body worked with it? What if more parts of you were working with it? What if you were bringing some of your awareness, your consciousness to it? Your focus. You just start focusing on it a little bit every day. You just start doing things that take you a little bit deeper every day, right? So that's that awake piece, right? Bring some of your awakeness, your consciousness, your presence, your awareness right to soul. Where are you creating life from? Are you creating it from the surface level, what looks good on fucking paper for the neighbors? Or are you creating life from this deep calling within? Okay. Let me feel for a second. Did we go into this other one? Let's do it. We got to talk a little bit about the shadow. So if we're talking about I have X amount of life force, I'm stepping into becoming my most creative creator possible, right? I've got my mind, I've got my emotional body, I've got my soul, I've got like 35 other ones, but we're not going into all of those. The other one that I have is the enormous beast in the basement. This is the unconscious. This is the shadow territory. This is everything that we stuffed down into the basement. You could link it to, we could just get really simple about this. You could link it to what I was talking about, repressed emotions, right? Unprocessed emotions. That gets stuffed into this basement. That's just one of the little things that gets stuffed into this basement, right? And so this, like thinking about this shadow territory, the unconscious, right? That which we are not conscious of as an iceberg. We are literally conscious of the tiny tip of the top. And then, whoa, there's this big, enormous amount of things that we are unconscious to. And those of us who, let me not say it like that. That sounds silly. When you create a relationship to the unconscious within yourself, this legit, I mean, we will never get to the enormous amount that's in the unconscious. It's it's indefinite. We will never, it's just never, right? It's not going to happen. Because if you get to all of your, let's just say you're diving into your ancestral line, you get to the bottom of that, you could just keep going down the whole ancestral line. You start to go into past lives, right? You get through all of the stuff in this life, then you start to go into past lives, then you go into the collective past lives, then you go into, past lives beyond just humanity. Like there's never ending. It's never ending. But when we come into, we hit this point where we can get into really a beautiful relationship with this. And it takes some work. Like, we got to do some shadow work. You got to do some shadow work. There's stuff that oftentimes kind of needs to be cleared or needs to be processed through, or we need to become conscious of. It's like you bring the light to the dark. You bring consciousness into the unconscious, right? And when you get to a certain level, it literally, that whole unconscious, that whole iceberg, that comes right into alignment too. And so think about this. You have creative potency fueled by the unconscious. That may have been the thing that blows some of your brains. There is so much juice and so much power sitting in the unconscious. Imagine, instead of tucking it away, being scared of it, being fearful of it, like, I don't want to know what I've got hidden in the basement of my being. I don't want to know the repressed parts of self. I don't want to know the denied parts of self. I don't want to know the unprocessed emotion. I'm good. No, you're not alive and you're not awake. Creative potency requires aliveness and awakeness. It requires us to really develop more and more capacity for life force to run through us, for aliveness to run through us, life force, right? Those are also can be feminine-based practices, Shakti practices, Kundalini practices, working with other psycho-spiritual powers that awaken life force in you. Right? Life force in you. There are many. Like some people just go, oh my gosh, it's Kundalini awakening. No, there's hundreds of those forms of waking up life force in ourselves. Body wisdoms within ourselves, more life force, so that we have a capacity to channel more energy. It's just energy. What is our relationship to energy? What is our relationship to energy? What is your relationship to life? Life force. Just life force moving through you. How much? How much life force can you move through you? This is essential, right? For stepping into the fullness of your creative potential. More and more, right? And then the awakeness. How awake? Right? How present? How conscious can you be to something? How much of you is being brought to a situation? How much are you sleepwalking through life? And then this alignment piece. This is what the alchemists knew. This is what the creators know. This is what those who create move mountains. Some of them do this very unconsciously. Some of them have worked to move the mind in alignment, to move the emotional body into alignment, to move the soul into alignment, and to move the unconscious into alignment, so that they are not fighting each other and we are just spinning, chasing our tails, not creating shit. And we are just a victim of fate. Wow, life is just flipping me all over the place. All of these things are just out of alignment and your life force is just being like eked out all over the place. It's just leaking. You just got leaks, that's all. You just got to work a little bit to bring them, right? That's it, to just so that all of that energy moves through all of them. Can you feel how different that is? It's like a river with a bunch of boulders and sticks and side little streams where the water gets taken off this way and taken off this way and taken off this way and taken off this way, versus a river with solid fucking banks and there's nothing in the way. That's what we're working toward, is this river with solid banks, nothing in the way. No little side streams, no little slip streams, right? And so if you talk about the river analogy, the life force is the amount of water that can move through you. And that's just capacity to develop, right? That's easy. That's easy to develop that capacity. No side streams, no things blocking the river, right? That's the one bringing presence, bringing consciousness, bringing awakeness to it, right? Because you're right there. You're actually creating the banks when you bring consciousness. I'm creating the container, right? I'm bringing my consciousness, my presence, my awareness right here to this thing, and that's it. Whether it's driving the car, whether it's walking the dog, whether it's feeding the baby, whether it's creating a business, whether it's doing a piece of artwork, right? But I'm bringing all of it right here. That creates the banks. Solid, strong banks. And then I've done the work so that the different parts of myself come into alignment when I'm creating. So I have the mind on board, I have my emotions on board, I have the soul on board, and I have the unconscious on board. And the, 35 other ones. All on board, all on board. That's wild potency. That is wild creative potential. That's becoming an alchemist. That's becoming a co-creator with the infinite all of everything. That's the capacity to tap in and to plug into universal mind, divine mind, something way greater than us. And anything can be created from that place. Anything can be figured out. Anything can be decided on, right? Again, creative acts are not pieces of art in the way that we think of them. Your life is a piece of art. Your life is a piece of art, right? Every moment of every day is a piece of art. And it's full of potential. Full of potential. I would love to hear from you in the comments below. If there's something that touched you in some way, I would love to hear from you. If you want more of this kind of conversations and anything specific, drop a note, really and truly, I mean it. Subscribe so that you don't miss any more of these conversations. SabrinaLynn.com, that's where all the magic happens. There's in-person retreats coming up on creative potency. It's called Walking the Dragon Line, but it's really all about this creative potency. There's a 18-month teacher training program coming up. That's all on this. There's always this thing. So no matter when you're watching this or hanging out, best place to go is just SabrinaLynn.com and see what's going on. It's been my absolute pleasure to be here with you, co-creating this with you. I really, really hope that this brought you something in a deep, creative, alchemical way. I really, really, really hope that. And I just want to leave you with love. Just leave this conversation with just a lot of love. A lot of love for the potential in you, for the fullness in you, for that soul blueprint in you. And just like, I don't know, can we let love call that out of ourselves? All right. I'll see you when I see you, where I see you, and how I see you.